Welcome to Topper IAS YouTube channel. In this session, we will be discussing about international relations questions which were asked in the recent Civil Services Mains 2023. And I am Nagabhushan, faculty at Topper IAS, and I will be engaging your session. So if you talk about international relations questions which were asked in the exam, so overall if we have to tell about it, see, the question paper was moderate. I am talking about international relations questions only. The question paper was moderate question paper because it was not so difficult and also was not that tough to be called. And second one is they have maintained the pattern. Every year UPSC used to ask 4 questions from the international relations, and even this year they have maintained that pattern. The 9th and 10th question, which are of 10 marks, and 19th and 20th question, which are of 15 marks, are from international relations. The pattern, there was no change. And talking about one question, the 20th question, which was a little bit on the tougher side because of its interdisciplinary approach, because the question was not completely from the IR, not completely from the environment, and not completely from the security perspective. Okay, it was interdisciplinary, that is IR, environment, and also the security area. That is where students felt a little bit of challenging while answering that question. Now diving into the question, we will see the first one. That is, the virus of conflict is affecting the functioning of SCO. In the light of the statement, above statement, point out the role of India in mitigating these problems. Okay, so SCO, the question is based on the groupings. It was expected that a question will come from grouping, but not from SCO, because in 2021 they have already asked the question on SCOs, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Okay, so in 2023 also they are going to ask. It was not that expected, okay, but they came up with that anyway. So 2023 and 2021 the question was from SCO, but talking about 2021 the question was of aims and objectives of SCO and how it is going to help India. But in 2023 what they are asking, what are the problems, what are the conflicts in SCO, and how can India solve those problems, or point out the reasons, point out the role that India can play in order to solve those conflicts. Okay, so if we have to start, one can go something like this, first discuss about SCO and its members. The members are of Central Asia, then Russia is there, China is there, Pakistan and India. Okay, then if you discuss about the conflict, when you say there is India, Pakistan and China, then you can guess India, Pak and China. India and Pakistan are already having conflicts, taking the Jammu Kashmir. And India and China are again having problems, that is the border disputes. So this is one thing. Okay, the members of the group are having internal conflicts related to their borders, first thing. And particularly coming to Pakistan, India is having cultural conflicts also, the religion thing. Okay, then that is one thing. Then the Central Asian countries within themselves, they are having the border disputes. So if you point out, border dispute is one of the problem which the grouping is having. Okay, that is one thing. Second one, BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, the ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, which is started by China. Okay, so part of it is going from the POK, which is a Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which happens to be the original territory of India before independence. So taking that, India is worried. And nowadays, what is happening? Not only nowadays, it's happening since the independence of India. That is Pakistan and China axis. That has become another worrisome for India. These are some inherent problems that SCO is having. And another one interesting, that is RATS. RATS is a regional anti-terrorist structure. Okay, so this is a structure which this SCO formed, but the functioning of it is questionable, because RATS has to work on the anti-terrorist activities, but what is terrorism is not defined. That's a problem here. What is terrorism is not being defined. India gives one definition for terrorism, and Pakistan gives another definition. And the definition of Pakistan is very much liberal, because it is a breeding ground of terrorist people. And what will be India's definition? Very much strict, taking the terrorism. That India follows the zero tolerance towards terrorism. Okay, so the definition is not clear, then how will RATS work? That is one conflict we have. So next, talking about India's role, how can India manage these all conflicts which are happening in the group? That is, India can use its diplomatic experience. Today we are seeing our foreign secretary, yes, Jaishankar, okay, he's giving very dynamic statements taking Europe, America, and any part of the world, okay. So his expertise can be used in order to solve the border disputes which are inherently there in Central Asia, okay. So Central Asian countries, India can go there, it can solve the problems there. Next, India can extend its track 2 and track 3 diplomacy, okay. See, since now what we are doing, we are sending our IFS officers, IFS officers of our country and IFS officers of other country. They will come, they will sit, they will discuss about the problems, okay. That is what is happening. We call it as a track 1 diplomacy. The officials of one country and officials of the other country, they will discuss, but we have to extend that discussions for the experts also, who are not the members of government, but those are experts in their own area, maybe in economy, maybe in space, maybe in technology. Those people have to be brought together and they have to discuss and come out with a solution. And track 3 diplomacy, people to people, cultural exchange will lead to the solution. We can extend our diplomacy to these things, okay, rather than restricting only for the track 1. That can be one solution, okay. Then these are very generic points which you can add, because see, if there is any conflict, we have to follow United Nations charters, the regulation to solve it, those kind of things. And India can focus on this disaster risk management programs, so that the trust deficit between the countries will come down. The recent example you can take is Turkey. Turkey was hit by earthquake, and India was the first country to send that humanitarian aid for the Turkey. And after that, what is happening recently in G20? Turkey supported India in order to join for the United Nations Security Council, or the membership of India in the Security Council, okay. That can be one thing that India can focus on. Fine. So in conclusion, what you can add is that SCO is a very potential grouping. We can bring very good things out of that particular grouping, but the conflicts are arresting the growth. So in order to solve the conflict, India is one of the important member anyway, it is there, but we should focus on the collective effort of all the members. Not only India, the collective effort will help us to come out of these conflicts. That could be a fair ending for this question, okay. So if you wish to add anything to those things, you can always leave it in the comment box. So then going to the next question, very interesting. Indian diaspora have scaled new heights in the West, okay. Describe its economic and potential benefits for India. So diaspora, again an expected question, because UPSC have mentioned in its syllabus Indian diaspora, okay. So talking about Indian diaspora, the question is interesting. Why did I say interesting? Because they have not asked the achievements of diaspora. They are telling Indian diaspora have scaled new heights. That means certainly Indian diaspora is already at some heights, and they are going for the next level of that height. So first you have to say what are the heights those Indians have already achieved, and what are the heights which they are achieving now. Example, let me tell you. Before that, it will be fair if you start something like this, according to this particular report, World Migration Report 2022, India is having highest diaspora in the world. Fine. And an important thing is they are powerful, influential and united. If you talk about Indian diaspora in South Africa, Indian diaspora in other part of the world, they are not that much united, they are not influential. But if you talk about the West, particularly in UK and America, Indian diaspora is powerful, influential and united, okay. So you see, first we used to read this in newspapers, that CEO of Google, CEO of Microsoft is an Indian. We used to talk about that. But now what we are talking, they are not only the CEOs, now they are becoming the vice president. The Indian origin is becoming vice president of USA. Don't you think it's a new height? Then coming to UK. So in UK we have a parliament, they have a parliament in fact. Okay, in UK they have a parliament. In that parliament, Indians used to have a position of cabinet ministers. Till now, they used to have a position of a cabinet minister. But now what's happening? An Indian origin is becoming the prime minister in UK. Don't we think it's a new height again? Coming to the in institutions, that is financial institutions. Which are they? IMF and World Bank. We had Geeta Gopinathan as a deputy managing director of IMF. She is currently the deputy managing director of IMF, but today the Ajay Banga have become the president of World Bank. President of World Bank. See, by looking at the question, you don't jump telling that Indian diaspora have achieved this, that thing. No, that is not they are focusing on. They are focusing on the new heights. Which are the new heights they have reached? Some heights already there, but which are the new heights they have achieved? Which you have to focus on those things. So these are the achievements of our diaspora. But how it is going to help India? Okay, that is the second part of question, right? So how will it help India? Economic benefits for India. What happens if Indians are in the good positions? Certainly they will earn more and more money. When they earn good amount of money, what they will do? Certain money they will use and certain money they will send back to India in the form of remittances. Okay, so talking about this, India is the country which receives highest remittances from the other countries, or diaspora basically. So it stands somewhere between $83 billion in 2022. And second, if Indians are in the very vital positions, don't you think they will start investing in the Indian companies only, or the startups of India, Indian origin? So that is one point which will help us. That is investments flowing into the Indian companies. Then the third one, Indian diaspora is expected to see, this is a generic point. Okay, that Indian CEOs, Indian tech people are working in a very large, very highest position. That means they are guiding the policies in USA as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. Okay, that is about the economic benefits that India can have. The second one is the political benefit. What is the political benefit we are going to have? See, our country involves in the multiple agreements with other countries. Okay, when we are going to make some agreement with some other country, the diaspora living in that country becomes important, because not all the agreements are signed on the tables or formally signed. Most of them are actually, what happens, they are discussed informally. Okay, so while discussing informally, the diaspora will be very important factor there. So one particular agreement which helped India, okay, Indian diaspora helped India, that is the US nuclear deal, which was signed in 2007 under the leadership of Manmohan Singh and Barack Obama in America. Okay, then second, the influential community will help us to get the visas. Okay, easy process only. That doesn't mean that they will start supplying visas for India, but the process, it becomes a little bit easy. That's it, nothing else. Okay, then the culture. When the Indian is becoming head of some state, or if he is becoming some important person in that country, what he will focus on? Spreading Indian culture. Once the people of that country are well versed with Indian culture, don't you think there will be tourism? Okay, if Indian goes there, okay, there will be a welcoming kind of a thing in that country. Okay, fine. For that, you can take an example of if a person travels to Pakistan as a tourist, and if a person travels to USA as a tourist, who will feel more safe? The person who travels to the non-Pakistani state. Okay, that was fun anyway. So in conclusion, you can always have that very punchy lines and all. The diaspora is doing this, doing that. After that, we are going to have that helps to the economic interest and political interest of our country. The generic points you can end and finish off the conclusion. Okay, fine. So these two were the questions of 10 marks. But now what we are discussing are the 15 markers. Okay, so in 15 markers you are expected to write 250 words. Fine. So going into the first question, this question is very much diversified question, and it requires a really deep understanding of India and its rivalry nation, that is China. Not only that, you have to understand the dynamics of Europe also, because what they are telling, that is, let me read the question first, then you will understand. Okay, so the expansion and strengthening of NATO, that is one part. Expansion and strengthening of NATO and a stronger US-Europe strategic partnership. The stronger US and Europe partnership works well in India. Okay, what is your opinion about this statement? Give reason and examples to support your answer. They have given already a question. I mean, the statement is already given, so you will have to interpret that particular lines. Okay, what they are telling, the NATO, the stronger NATO and its expansion. first thing. Second one, US EU, US Europe partnership. How they are going to work for India? First, talking about NATO. See, what is NATO actually? What is NATO? NATO is a security alliance basically. It's not a political, but it's a security alliance which is signed between America and the northern Atlantic regions. Okay, this is America. Here you have Europe. Here you have Atlantic, and this is Northern Atlantic. So this was the treaty between America and the Europe. So we started calling it as a North Atlantic Treaty Organization. That was basically formed in order to counter the growth of Russia, USSR, the then USSR in the Europe. You all know that thing, but they are not going to ask you that. You have to just give the objective of NATO, then directly jump to its favoritism towards democratic states. So if you see the list of countries today, all the countries of NATO are democratic states. And talk about its expansion. If NATO expands, how will it help India? India is again a vibrant democracy, the largest democracy in the world. If NATO supports the democratic states, don't you think NATO will help India in case of any problem to the democracy in India? I mean, the democracy in India can come under threat by two things. One is domestic, and another one is internationally related things. The domestic thing I am not focusing on. The international thing we are focusing. For example, India is a democratic state. Any communist country attacks India, don't you think the NATO will come and help us? So if NATO is well expanded in the region, okay, in the region of communist people, okay, don't you think India is going to have a safer side when it comes to war? Okay, so 100% that the expansion of NATO will help India may not be right, but for larger extent the expansion of NATO will help India, because one communist country or one socialist country is also friend of India, that is Russia. You have to bring that factor also. Don't completely agree with the answer there or the lines they have given. It largely helps India, may not completely. Give the examples. If in order to counter the growth of China, you need NATO. But when it comes to Russia and India relation, you should certainly stay away from the NATO. Okay, that is how you have to analyze the questions. Anyway, so the first part you can make it out. The second one, the strategic EU and Europe relation, or US. I will call it as a US EU relation. That will be easy for you to. Okay. So what's happening? What's happening in world? That is because of China. China's BRI is expanding in Europe also. Very ambitiously, BRI is expanding in Europe also. Okay. In order to counter that, the relation between US and EU has to be strong. So US and EU, if we say the best outcome of this US EU G7. G7 grouping is the best outcome of these two agreement or these two alliance. So what G7 is doing? Build Back Better World initiative, which is directly countering BRI. Okay, if this alliance is strong, they can counter China easily. If China is countered, India can focus on its growth easily. If China grows unilaterally, if China grows into a very strong country, the first threat, the first country which is going to have threat is India. Anyway, so keep China center. You talk about NATO. You talk about which the US-EU relation. That is one thing. Second one, if these two countries are together, you can sign the free trade agreements easily between the countries. Okay. So these two countries are what technologically very forward countries. Okay. So if we have a very good relation with these two countries, don't you think they will transfer the technology also for certain extent, if not completely, for India? In that sense, you have to bring that the expansion of NATO and the strategic relation between US and EU really works for India. Okay, give some examples. Okay, fine. Then coming to the conclusion, what you can write? You can give a balanced answer here, because the strong NATO and EU-US relation will help us to maintain a peaceful Indo-Pacific. Why peaceful Indo-Pacific? Because in Indo-Pacific, China is growing very strongly and it is claiming most of the South China Sea, which is a threat for the global trade. So these two, if NATO expansion and EU, this thing will help us to counter China in a better way. Or don't always talk about China only. You say aggression of one single country. You say in that way. That will be more flowery. Okay. Anyway, with these things you can just finish off. Discussing about the last question. That is, sea is an important component of the cosmos. Discuss in the light of the above statement the role of IMO, International Maritime Organization, in protecting environment and enhancing safety and security. He is expecting to talk about environment and safety, security with respect to IMO. Before that, he has given something very interesting, that is, sea is an important component of cosmos. Why he have come up with that point particularly? You have to see. Cosmos. What do you mean by cosmos? Brahmanda. Okay. He's talking about Brahmanda. And he's telling in whole of Brahmanda, the most important component, the important component is sea. Why he's telling that? Okay, you have to question why UPSC is coming up with those things. Because you see, where did the life origin the first time? The life originated in the sea. Okay. So we all are coming from the sea actually. Our real home is sea. The microorganisms started taking birth in the sea. Even today, when we are talking about moon, where did India reach? The South Pole. Why did it go to South Pole? They said there is a chance of getting water in the South Pole. So why we are focusing on water? If there is water, if there is a water reservoir, then there is a chance of organisms, microorganisms. If the microorganisms are already there, then we can think about more researches regarding those things. So sea is our home actually. We may have forgotten, but what we are doing with that particular sea is what we are doing. We are polluting it. One, through the garbage. Second one, through the ships. And he is focusing on the shipping industry basically. So how shipping industry is polluting our seas. Okay. So this is the introduction you may have right. Okay. The first one is origin of life. Second one is trade route, important trade route. Most of the trade in the world, that is about 80% plus of the trade in the world happens through sea today. Why sea? Why not road? Difficult. You have to cross different terrains. You have to take the vehicle, diesel, those things. I mean the petrol kind of a thing. Then the friction force. All those things are, they are increasing the cost of the transportation. If the cost of transportation is high, what happens end of the day? The product gets very much it gets very much costly. Okay, when the product is costly, the global the trade, what happens for that trade? It starts coming down. Okay, see what happens when inflation happens. I mean, what will be the effect of the inflation? You will understand that the increase in price leads to the inflation. That inflation will take down the country down. I mean the economy of the country down. You know that. So again, biodiversity. Okay, so the biodiversity which we have on the ground is very much limited. But if we talk about the biodiversity below the sea, it's more than what we see outside. So these are importance of the seas basically. Then talking about the body, because nowadays the structure is being sold more. Okay. Even the students demand these things, so we come up with these things. Okay. No issue in that. Anyway, so the first question which I try to figure out is that why did they ask particularly from the IMO, International Maritime Organization, wherein they have many more specialized agencies related to environment. Why did they come up with this? Because it was actually 75th anniversary for IMO. And UPSC will never leave this chance of taking the things, that is for 10-year anniversary, 50, 75 or 100 years. It has that thing. Okay. So it was 75th anniversary for IMO and establishment of IMO. So these are the things which IMO focuses on: the sea, shipping, maritime safety, then environment concern, efficiency of ship, those things. Okay. Sorry. So what is IMO's role in protecting the environment? Basically, I have divided the answer into two parts. The first one is the environment part. The second one is about the safety and security, maritime safety and security. Okay. So this seems to be a little bit more on the factual side, but anyway, you have to go through it. Okay. Anyway, if someone have really done a very good preparation for exam, they would have attempted this thing with some good amount of examples, but certainly I have hugely taken help of Wikipedia in order to develop this thing. Okay, fine then. So protecting environment, what they have planned, this is Ballistic Water Management Convention. The first one is Ballistic Water Management Convention. What is it? See, the ship which is used for the trading, while going it will be empty. While coming, it will come up with the goods, but while going it's empty. When the ship is empty, it is unstable. In order to increase the stability of the ships, what we do? We fill water in the hull of the ship. We fill water into the ships. Okay, suppose if a ship has to go from India to US in order to bring some goods, it will first fill water of India or India surrounded around India, and this ship will go there. It will empty those water, and the goods will be filled into the ship. It will come back. But the problem is the water of India is going to the USA. Along with water, some microbes are going to USA or the coast of USA. When you leave the microorganisms of Asia in the America, what happens? Some microorganisms may be invasive species. They may affect the environment of USA. The reverse also may happen. The microorganisms from USA may come to Indian coast and they may affect, or they may become the invasive species and affect the environment there. That is one thing. In order to manage that, IMO have come up with this convention. The second one is they have limited the usage of sulfur in the oil which we use for the ship as a fuel. Inside the ship, the oil which we use should be of a less sulfur. If you just release more and more sulfur rich fuel into the water, what happens? So the marine system gets affected. That is one thing. Second, the third one is increasing the efficiency of the machines used for the shipping. So if we increase the efficiency, it consumes less oil or less fuel. If less fuel, more conservation of the environment. Okay, so these are general points. Right. Then talking about how it enhances the safety and security. Okay, IMO have come up with some codes actually, ISPS code, security measurement, those kind of things. Okay, so the big problem which we have as far as the ships are concerned, the piracy, the pirates, how to mitigate with those pirates, all those things, those codes are given. So a little bit of factual thing which you can see search and rescue, wherever any accident happens, a sinking of any ship, who has to go, what has to happen, all those things, discussion of those things. Then piracy and armed robbery things. See, where does piracy happens? Most of the piracy of the world, where does it happen? Somalia. Why Somalia? Because the raw materials will come from America, the production happens in Europe, the finished goods will enter the Mediterranean Sea, they will cross the Suez Canal, and at the tip you have what? At this tip you have Somalia. So they will capture the ship filled with the goods which are supposed to go for Asia, and they start demanding money. Okay. And the anarchy which is present in Somalia is another reason for that. Anyway, talking about this Africa is again an interesting thing. Someday we will plan that. But coming back to this question, so these are some conventions, some codes, some regulations that IMO have always focused on in order to enhance the maritime security basically. Okay. I hope if you go through this PDF, you will be in a position to understand. If any doubt left, you can always comment in the comment box. Okay. Then coming to the conclusion. So anyway, the trade route of the world is important route. The Malacca Strait, how much goods and services crosses there? Crosses Malacca Strait every year. At least $1 trillion of the goods and services will cross Malacca Strait. Again, talk about Strait of Hormuz. At least $1 trillion again. Because what is traded through Hormuz? Oil. What is oil again? Oil is a lifeline of industrialized world. Oil is a lifeline of industrialized world. Without oil, no energy. Without energy, no production. So oil is very important component or important fuel currently. But anyway, we are trying for the transaction from the carbon-based fuel to some non-carbon or renewable resources. But still the way, but it's a very far way still. We are focusing on those things anyway. Fine. So I hope you were able to understand the questions. or I focused more on decoding the questions rather than discussing the answers. Okay. So if you have any doubt, as you know, leave in the comment box. So it's a time to end. So thank you for your patience. If you want any videos similar to these things, please let me know through this particular topper IAS, or anyway you have the number, you can always ask those people, and we will come up with such videos if any. So thank you for your patience.